It's Thursday, May 14. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, updated the nation on the effects of COVID-19 on the island.
In the last 24 hours, 2 samples have tested positive for COVID-19, bringing the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Jamaica to 509. The newly confirmed cases are male, 48 and 74 years old, from St. Catherine and Kingston and St. Andrew, respectively. One of the positive cases is a contact of a confirmed case related to the workplace cluster in St. Catherine. The other is under investigation.
Dr. Tufton also highlighted the fact that more Jamaicans are recovering from the virus.
In the last 24 hours, 13 more patients have recovered and have been released from hospital. This brings the total number of recoveries to 113. This is a recovery rate of some 22.2%. And you would have seen that in the last week or so, we have seen a fairly high increase in the number of recoveries, which is a very positive development and in keeping with our expectations given when we discovered the first positive case. There are now 387 active cases. Of note, there are no moderately or critically ill cases at this time. And that is again worth highlighting, that for the most part, and as of now, the positive cases are cases that are not critical or even moderately ill. These are persons who are primarily asymptomatic.
The COVID-19 pandemic is expected to cost Jamaica $120 billion due to lost revenues and increased costs. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke gave a comprehensive report on the costs and its impact on the national budget in the House of Representatives on Wednesday afternoon. Marlon Samuels tells us more.
The COVID-19 pandemic has a double whammy effect. Our revenues are affected to the tune of $81 billion, i.e. revenues are projected to decline by $81 billion. And in addition to that, we have new expenditure that would not have arisen if not for the COVID-19 pandemic of $34 billion. You add those two together, you get $115 billion. And if that were not enough, Mr. Speaker, the government has what you call other inflows, which have been affected to the tune of $5 billion. You add those three quantities together, and the COVID-19 pandemic presents to the government and people of Jamaica a challenge of $120 billion, Mr. Speaker.
The finance minister says the country will lose about $81 billion in tax revenue. That is 12.3% less than the approved estimates due to reduced economic activity. Preliminary estimates show that revenues for the last month were already 18% less than projected.
We expect the revenues that the government has to take care of its expenditures to be lower by $81 billion. The reduction is mainly from tax revenues, which we expect to decline by 13.4%. Non-tax revenues is estimated to decline by $2.3 billion or 3.4% vis-a-vis the approved estimates.
To rebalance the budget, the government is making cuts and reallocations of expenditure. The expenditure is projected at over $838 billion. In looking at the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Clarke says the government is now planning to spend $26.8 billion.
The COVID pandemic has a cost tag of $120 billion. We are through 2 primary routes. The first is a $50 billion adjustment to expenditure, okay, not on a net basis. Okay, on a net basis, expenditure will be adjusted by a much smaller quantity because we are also accommodating $34 billion of new COVID-19 related expenditure. The other component to address the $120 billion, Mr. Speaker, is the use of cash resources of $70.8 billion.
The COVID allocation of resources for employees care program will increase to $17 billion. The productive sector should get $800 million. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
The coronavirus crisis is providing a tough and testing time for all sectors of the economy. The construction industry is seen as vital in the post-COVID-19 recovery phase. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is urging members of the private sector involved in the construction industry to resume operations while being operationally safe. Gabriel Thompson has more in this report.
On Wednesday, May 13, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, using a hydraulic hammer mounted on a backhoe, broke ground on the Garmex redevelopment and expansion project. The project, taking place along Industrial Terrace in Kingston, is being undertaken by the Factories Corporation of Jamaica.
We're trying to reinforce the edge along the Industrial Terrace, landscape it properly, wide verges, pedestrian friendly, and also to introduce pedestrian friendly elements within the plant by introducing wider sidewalks and some landscaping to soften it up and make it a lot more inviting and comfortable situation. Of course, in the overall development, we are also trying to improve the total infrastructure inside here. So in the first bill, as I said, we're just doing under 100,000 square foot, but there is also, we are making sure that we introduce provisions for some mini warehousing along that edge, which are about 36 units. And they are from 1,000 to 2,000 square foot. Again, making sure that we also have something for the little man who's just starting at his way.
For more than a decade, the FCJ has not built any new warehousing capacity. And now, this is the first time in many years that the FCJ will be expanding our warehousing capacity.
Private sector stakeholders in the construction industry are being urged to resume construction projects.
I would like to say to those persons that if you wait, you will not see anything. That the right approach to take is to see what you can do now. Make the investment plans that you have materialize now. Bring forward some of the investment plans that you have. It is in the delay and in the waiting to see that you may exacerbate a recession in the economy. And so the government, as much as we can, will be moving ahead with the projects that we can finance. And we are encouraging the private sector to do the same.
The Prime Minister underscored the exceptional circumstances brought about by the coronavirus, COVID-19, and the need to keep the construction industry operational.
But yes, the pandemic has had an impact on the economy. The pandemic will cause government revenues to fall. The pandemic will have an impact on the cash flow of businesses. But it does not have to last longer than it should. We, as economic agents and actors, should not exacerbate the fall off in economic activity. We have to be smart and ensure that we do everything in our power to return full economic activity. Always bearing in mind the health and safety of our workers, of our people.
For the news on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
At least 40 business process outsourcing centers, BPOs, have already been cleared to operate during the COVID-19 pandemic. That information from Prime Minister Andrew Holness. The Prime Minister says the number represents more than 50% of the BPOs, and that at the same time, the companies have increased staff working from home to 33%. Simone Absalom has the details.
The BPO sector is still being inspected. I believe that they have now approved over 40 BPOs, yes, to operate. Others are at varying degrees of compliance, and they are working to meet the compliance standards. And we are expecting that when the present order expires, that all the BPOs would have over 40, I don't have the exact figure with me, my recollection would be about 44 BPOs have been approved to operate. They have been cleared.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness addressing Parliament on Tuesday. Jamaica's BPO industry was shuttered for 14 days from April 21 as part of efforts to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus across the island. The lockdown followed reports of employees contracting the virus in a single company, Alorica, and spread to more than 200 contacts at the same site. Mr. Holness noted that the BPO market is very competitive as Jamaica is competing against countries like Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, the Philippines, India, and Panama.
Jamaica has managed to do very well. In less than a decade, we have grown the business significantly to have approximately 40,000 persons working in the industry. In the last 5 years, we have almost doubled. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow the industry to suffer. But the industry will have to adjust, and the government is working hand in hand with the industry to ensure that it is able to adjust very quickly to the new work normal that has to emerge.
Mr. Holness said while other countries have taken more drastic actions, such as closing and shutting them down totally, actually losing business, Jamaica has so far weathered the storm.
Jamaica has not, to my knowledge, what I have seen, lost any business other than what would have been related to tourism. And the potential is that we may very well gain business if we are able to very quickly come out of this period of probation with stronger workplace protocols and with stronger support and regulation of the industry.
For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom.
Entrepreneurs who applied for a small business grant should begin to get their funds this month. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, says the verification of small business grant applications is underway and payments will be processed following the review of the Auditor General. The small business grant is a component of the government's COVID allocation of resources for employees program CARE. The Finance and the Public Service Minister explained that the grants are for businesses that file income tax and payroll returns, indicating that they have at least one employee. Plans are in high gear to reopen the tourism sector. First up, transportation. Several air carriers have indicated that they are ready to resume flights to Jamaica starting at the end of May. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says the focus is on ensuring that new rigorous health and safety protocols that will govern all aspects of the tourism industry locally and internationally will be sufficient to manage the COVID-19 risk. Minister Bartlett says the safety of industry workers and other Jamaicans must be guaranteed when the sector resumes operations. He says global guidelines will govern COVID-19 protocols, and Jamaica will have to decide how it will accept passengers based on that. For example, airports will be doing testing and tracing. The price of gas has seen fluctuations in recent weeks owing to the economic crunch brought on by COVID-19. Gabriel Thompson takes us through the latest prices for motorists as well as other news in the Business Report.
According to the latest ex-refinery costs from Petrojam, motorists should see an increase at the pumps in the prices of gasoline and diesel effective Thursday, May 14. 87 and 90 octane gasoline will be sold for $117.17 and $120 1 cent per liter respectively, up by 25 cents each. Automotive diesel fuel will be sold for $109.65 per liter, following an increase of 25 cents, while ultra-low sulfur is up by 25 cents and will now be sold for $116.41 per liter. Meanwhile, kerosene increased in price by 25 cents and will be sold for $92.14 per liter. Propane liquid petroleum will be sold for $41.34 per liter, up by $2.97, and butane liquid petroleum will be sold for $46 per liter after an increase of $3.06. Marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markup to these prices. In Wednesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index declined by 915 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 79 stocks, of which 42 advanced, 25 declined, and 12 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 1 point to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company, and Blue Par Group. Stocks declined for Barita Investments, Berger Paints Jamaica, and Caribbean Cement Company. Trading firm were 1834 Investments, Siboney Group Limited, and Epley Caribbean Property Fund. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited was the volume leader with 4.4 million units, followed by Sagicor Select Funds Limited Manufacturing and Distribution with 3.9 million units, and Pulse Investments Limited with over 1 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Wednesday, May 13, ended trading at $147.13. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $105.52. The pound sterling traded for $181.61, and the euro ended trading at $161.87. Oil prices rose on Thursday after a drop in U.S. crude stocks and an IEA forecast for lower global stockpiles in the second half, but the Brent benchmark still hovered around $30 a barrel as a bleak demand picture curbed gains. Brent crude futures gained 80 cents to $29.99 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude gained 79 cents to $26.08 a barrel. And that's it for the Business Report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
This week, the Culinary Trail leads host Simone Absalom to Chilitos, where she spoke with co-owner Christopher Box.
Chilitos co-owner Christopher Box says his team had to adapt to the changes imposed on the food service sector due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
In accordance with the government mandate, we've locked off our dining room, so we no longer have guests coming in and dining in the restaurant at all. We've packed up all our tables and chairs, so that was the first major change that we did. Then we realized that the people still wanted our food, and then we tried to innovate to see how best we could get the food to them. So we did actually a big pivot towards delivery. We had in I think the first week of the government announcements, we had an exclusive partnership with 7 Crave where we offered free delivery to all customers that ordered over 2,500. That was very successful. We're very happy that 7 Crave believes in us to sign on. And then since then, the demand has been so good that we have decided to do our own in-house delivery. So now we have, I think, 2 bikes on the road, sometimes 3. Depending on the day. We've also shifted up our entire operation to make it much more streamlined when you come in. Now that we have the space in the dining room without, the tables and chairs, we have separate lines for walk-up orders, pick-up orders, and delivery. And possibly the biggest change is that we've embraced technology. So we've launched our website, chilitosjamexican.com, and we've launched online ordering.
There's also been changes to staff hygiene and uniform.
I mean, the health and safety of the team was a big concern. I mean, especially in the early days when you really didn't know, the information was changing every day about the do's and the don'ts, hand washing versus sanitizing versus should you wear a mask, should you not wear a mask. So as the information came out, we've adapted as such. So the first thing that we did was that we, luckily one of my directors was a bit of a hypochondriac, so we had stocked up on hand sanitizer and lots of cleaning chemicals from before the government announced that the first case was here. So we had a very strict cleaning and sanitation schedule, surfaces being wiped off, employees being mandated to wash their hands every 20 minutes, etc. Then, as the mandate started to change to encourage mask wearing, from actually before the government mandated it, we had gotten the surgical masks. However, we decided that that just wasn't feasible to change a new mask every day. They're not cheap, especially in these times. And then also, we don't want to leave those for the medical professionals. We pivoted towards the reusable mask. So actually, a team member here, I think it's her cousin that made them for the entire team, and we purchased them from her. So the team just washes them every day and reuses them.
So the dining experience is out. Still, you can take advantage of the specials and the signature margaritas.
We actually have been launching a couple specials during this time. We did a very successful fried chicken taco, which was great. Then we pivoted to, for Cinco de Mayo week, which was last week, we had a couple specials. We did a cassava crusted shrimp taco, which was very good. We had it for the whole week. And then we did a Barbie fried burrito on Friday. We've also launched 2 signature new margarita flavors. We've done sorrel, which was a favorite in Christmas. And we did tamarind, which is a brand new flavor using local tamarind. It's very, very, very good. It's probably the flavor that I'm the most proud of that we offer. It's still currently available now while stocks last.
Yummy! Additions to the menu and service, it's a win-win for everyone. As the saying goes, there's opportunity in chaos. That's what Mr. Box says. We asked him for his advice to other entrepreneurs.
Take a deep breath. It's happening to everybody, and it will pass, and it will get better. On the other hand, in terms of actionable innovations for your business, everyone is going through the same thing as you, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. So everybody's going to innovate and try the same tactics. So I think that use the knowledge of previous crises that you have to see how you've innovated in the past, and use the strengths of your business, what you know that you have to play on in this time. So if it is that you need to work on getting your product out quicker so that customers don't have the wait time, then that's what you focus on. But I would say identify the strengths that you had in the past and see how best they can help you now. Take a deep breath. You know, take things hour by the hour. Really, the information comes in so quickly. Sometimes you feel like you don't have a chance to adapt. However, you'll be surprised what you can accomplish in a very limited period of time. The last piece of advice that I would give all the entrepreneurs out there is this is a crisis and it comes with immense suffering and it's awful. However, there's always opportunity in the crisis. So try and identify what those are in your business and use them.
That's it for this week's episode of Culinary Trails. See you next time.
In regional news, the number of COVID-19 cases in Guyana has gone up in recent days. InfoHub's Lucia gives us the breakdown.
As of May 12, regions 2, 5, and 8 are the only regions which have not recorded a single COVID-19 case. However, the other 7 regions have recorded positive cases, making the virus more widespread. This is according to Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. Karen Gordon-Boyle, who warned citizens that PAHO's projected model figures for possible cases may become a reality if Guyanese do not adhere to the safety and precautionary guidelines.
We must seriously think about reducing the transmission of this disease and containing the spread of the virus so that we all can return to normalcy. Isn't this our ultimate goal? Therefore, we ask you not only to abide by the rules, but those of you who have been in contact with positive cases, we ask you to come forward and provide information about your contacts as well, so that you and your loved one can avoid the risk of contracting the disease and possibly losing your life.
The coronavirus is slowly making its way across the entire country. The DCMO made reference to increasing confirmed cases in the region of the Americas, in which the United States, Brazil, Venezuela, and Guyana are located. It was noted that a disaster is brewing at Guyana's backdoor if caution is not exercised.
As the ministry's response efforts continue, your behavior is not encouraging. You continue to flout control measures and to put all at risk. Instead of our curve beginning to flatten, we still see an upward trajectory in positive coronavirus cases.
Persons are not only being asked to abide by the rules, but to be forthcoming with information even as the ministry continues to do contact tracing to find those persons who may have been in contact with positive cases. For InfoHub, Lucia Haynes.
The COVID-19 pandemic has affected working hours and production. New data from the International Labour Organization, the ILO, says 9.9% of working hours, the equivalent of 1.5 million full-time jobs in the Caribbean, are expected to be lost during the second quarter of this year due to the impact of COVID-19. The ILO says the regional outlook on the matter is in line with the global pattern. By comparison, during the first quarter, the hours lost was estimated at 1.7% or 250,000 full-time equivalent jobs. The organization said these latest estimates include only, due to data limitations, the Bahamas, Barbados, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, and the United States Virgin Islands. Over in St. Lucia, the fisheries sector could face closure if the illegal entry of nationals continue. Agriculture Minister Ezekiel Joseph, during an interview at the COVID-19 response headquarters in that country, says fishers who harbor criminals are doing the sector a disservice. Gina Phillips of HTS News reports.
Fisherfolk may have forgone the opportunity to venture out to sea due to alleged acts of criminality by some. However, the decision was reconsidered, taking into account the ramifications for the industry. Acting Police Commissioner Milton Daisy revealed that some fishers were aiding and abetting nationals who gain entry into the country illegally via open waters, jeopardizing the safety of citizens. Police and other agencies were mulling the closure of the sector, but the Agriculture Ministry intervened.
Those persons who are there doing illegal activities, they can affect our fisheries subsector. Friday, the stakeholders met, including the Marine Police, because the committee responsible for COVID, the intention was to close again the fisheries subsector to not allow persons to go out and fish. As a ministry, we spoke against it. We felt that it will really be a negative, have a significant negative impact on our fisher folks, and we told them to allow us to engage the stakeholders, including, of course, the Marine Police.
2 people from the Beaufort North area were recently detained by authorities for entering the island illegally. Others managed to give law enforcement the slip. This is quite worrying to the authorities, as these individuals may come into contact with other civilians, increasing the likelihood of the community spread of COVID-19. Agriculture Minister Ezekiel Joseph says failing to report such incidents does not only condone the act, but places lives at risk.
Whilst we don't have any tangible information as to what we call our legitimate fisher folks, right? But it's happening, right? And what we are saying, the mere fact that you're not doing it, but you're not reporting it, and that's what the Marine Police was saying, you're not reporting it, you're giving tacit endorsement to the situation. And we expect them to report it, because the final analysis, if it continues, right, the outcome would be to discontinue allowing fishermen to go out there and fish. And it's going to affect you, right? That's one way. It's also going to affect you because you're bringing persons you don't know if they are contaminated as far as COVID is concerned, and you're exposing your family, exposing yourself.
Fishers who may fear for their safety are encouraged to reach out to extension officers and cooperatives.
They have a responsibility, to support our Marine Police as it pertains to providing information. Now, if they are not comfortable, because people talk with some of the fishermen who were representing the respective cooperatives spoke about the question of safety of the persons providing information, and that's true, because we don't want to expose persons there. So telephone numbers were shared, what they call private telephone numbers. If they don't want to call the Marine Police directly, they can speak to somebody they have confidence in.
So they can go through the cooperative.
The cooperative, if they're comfortable with it.
Okay.
Right? Because you don't know who you speak with, you can speak to the extension officer, fisheries extension officer, or you can call the Marine Police direct.
The minister says last week he spoke virtually with various stakeholders and cooperatives on the island. He says they gave their commitment to discuss the national security issue with fisherfolk. Failure of the fishers to abide by the law could result in a total shutdown of the sector. With disruptions in the food supply chain due to the COVID-19 crisis and talk of possible shortages, the closure of the fisheries sector could affect the nation's access to vital protein and a staple on the local diets. Gina Filippi, HTS News Force.
In sports, a memorandum of understanding could be signed this week between the Minister of Finance and key horse racing figures, potentially paving the way for a return to racing at Caymanas Park. President of the United Racehorse Trainers Association, Ryan Darby, says discussions started just under a week ago. He is optimistic that once a document is signed off, racing can resume in weeks. He added that once ink gets put to paper on the MOU, it will be up to promoters Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited to restart the races. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.